So, why are ratios useful? That's basically saying, why is this chapter important? Well, if you've got several different companies, you can calculate, for example, profit margin or return on equity for all three of those companies, and you can make a good comparison across companies. So it's like standardizing numbers, and that helps us to compare to see how this company is doing relative to this other company. They're also important because they can point out weaknesses in the firm and their strengths. And ratios are used by managers to help improve the firm's performance. Ratios are used by lenders to help evaluate the firm's likelihood of repaying debts. And ratios are used by stockholders to help forecast future earnings and dividends. And so we have five major categories for the ratios. So liquidity, asset management, debt management, profitability, and market value. So liquidity deals with how liquid the firm is in terms of its current assets and current liabilities. Can it make its current payments based on what it's currently receiving in the form of payments from customers? Asset management means, does the company have the right amount of assets compared to its level of sales? And debt management means that do they have too much debt or do they have too little debt? And then they also could look at, is the equity in the right level? And then profitability is pretty obvious. Are they making any kind of profit? And we look at that in terms of the profit margin, return on equity, and return on assets. And market value is important because that tells us how investors perceive the company's performance. And if they don't perceive that you're doing well, then you'll be punished as a company and it could cause severe problems for you. So let's look at some liquidity ratios. The current ratio and quick ratio. The current ratio is just current assets divided by current liabilities. And so this is for 2015. And we see that we get 2.34. So we're basically saying that we can cover current liabilities that we owe 2.34 times over with our current assets. And then the quick ratio takes out inventories from current assets in the numerator and divides by current liabilities, and we get 0.84. And so the quick ratio is a good measure because a lot of times it's going to be really hard to rely on selling inventory to help cover current liabilities in a crisis. So the quick ratio tells us how many times over can we pay our current liabilities with current assets without having to rely on inventories. Now these two numbers don't really mean much because I have no way to compare them with the firm in the previous years or with like the industry average. So those are two other things that we need to be able to make a statement about these numbers, whether they're good or bad. And so now I can make that statement. Just looking at the firm relative to itself, in 2013 it was 2.3, 2014 it was bad at 1.2 compared to itself, and then basically 2015 is getting it back up to that 2.34 level. And the same thing with the quick ratio. They were at 0.85 and then they went down to 0.39, which was bad in 2014, and then they go back up as an estimate of 0.84. So we can compare for the firm over time. Now if we compare to the industry average, the industry's up to 2.7, and in general, the higher this position, the better, because it means that you can cover your current liabilities better. You can see that both of the 2015 estimates are below the industry average, which implies that they have a weaker liquidity position than its peers.